giving you a voice,
making it loud our own way.
Welcome to the fun. So our first story tonight is talking about some of the issues that FIRST has been having with in some international regions. We're going to look at two key areas recently impacted and then discuss what FIRST can do if they want to scale international growth and have real sustainability out there. The first area we're going to be visiting is Israel. First, FRC in Israel got started way back in 2005, and it's been growing at a decent rate. Really nice move to districts a couple of years ago, but recently Israel has hit some financial issues, and from emails and reports sent to us, almost did not have districts this year, so due to financial hardship. Our producer Tyler sat down with the lead CSA for FIRST Israel, Reuven, to understand what's going on. So let's take a look and then discuss what can be done to help our Israeli friends.
Hey everybody, checking in more, talking about international programs in FIRST, and I'm here with Reuven Stahl, who's the lead CSA for FIRST Israel, and we're delighted to talk with you, Reuven. There's been kind of an interesting, some discussions that have happened in Israel that I think really haven't been shown in the limelight too much, and we want to get that discussion going because it's important for all teams, regardless of where you are, to be aware of what's going on throughout our FIRST community, and that's what we want to bring up here today is in regards to districts and financial potential issues going on in Israel. So can you fill us in on what's going to happen in this past month and what maybe we'll be looking forward to in FIRST Israel for this next season?
So, hi everyone. There are two separate things going on in Israel at the moment. One is FIRST is the district and there's an organization level, and one is per team. So the first thing that happened is many teams since 2012 would get a grant from the government, from the Ministry of Education in Israel, that would help them run financially. This grant was heavily reduced this year due to intergovernmental stuff. Okay. So many teams are struggling with their own team finances. And then FIRST in Israel itself has a lot of challenges and financial issues. And to a point that they considered maybe changing a bit how the way that the district model work in Israel. They had a lot of talks with mentors, with volunteers, with teams. We are still going to do district, but FIRST in Israel has a lot of challenges ahead of it with finances, with team numbers, and with volunteers. And this is things that if any of you listening can help Israel with, or if you are in Israel and are not a volunteer yet, we would love to see you helping.
So you're looking for volunteers to actually come to Israel and perhaps volunteer some of the events. Is that correct?
If someone here wants to come to Israel, he's more than invited. We are a lovely country. We are nice people, and we would always love to have more people helping us, especially really experienced volunteers.
So looking, there's always the side with the politics, and for that amount, I don't think somebody like us can really help show too much on what we can do for that. But what about FIRST in particular? What are things that FIRST could do to help not just Israel, but perhaps other what we call international teams to succeed and grow? And then where do you see that, if something like that doesn't happen, does that just mean we don't have districts in Israel, or are there potential other ramifications to that?
One of the solution that was discussed is maybe to run a different model of competition in Israel this season due to the financial issues that FIRST is faced with. We know that running a competition, especially outside the US, when you need to airship everything, which is expensive, we have our own issues with VATs and custom fees and taxes that we have to pay our own government. Everything comes down to a cost and to a price. And making the field cheaper, making it more readily available to get stuff or make stuff here. Getting, as you know, the game pieces, the milk crate that were horribly expensive after you added the taxes and the shipping and everything to get them to Israel. Those kind of things can help us as Israelis or as internationals a lot when making FIRST grow here. As long as when the costs are cheaper for a team, then it's easier for them to compete. We have to pay for every part and everything we import due to our own government, almost another 100% fee. Wow. So if a part on a vendor would be $5 for you with shipping and customs and everything, it's $10 for me. And then due to international shipping times, it also takes 2 weeks to get it. Now we're talking about usually mid-season stuff that you need it now. And I found myself going physically to the airport to clear things from customs. I know that many teams does that. As long as you and the US sides can help us reduce those costs and being able to get more parts, get more legal parts outside of the international system, because we have our own, let's say, motor manufacturers for industry, but those motors would be illegal under the first manual because we have to have, the sims and everything that you guys use in the US,
sure,
which we have to import. Same with game pieces. We have milk crates in Israel, just different size than the milk crates you guys use in America.
Yeah. You
Those
use
kind
this
of things.
thing called centimeters and other key terms that we haven't heard of here in the States, right?
Yep, we do. We are proud at our metric system.
Yes, absolutely. So what can looking there's kind of two things. So you mentioned reducing costs and trying to get that route. We've had a couple discussions before on our shows in regards to what if all teams, regardless of where they're from, were to maybe kick in a little bit more. Like if I was a team from the States, what if my team kicked in an extra $200 US to help cover the cost of an international team or something like that? Is that kind of what you'd be hoping for, or are there other ways maybe we could reduce overall cost for teams in Israel?
Well, I'm not necessarily would like to see teams in the US, because teams in the US have their own financial challenges,
sure,
obviously.
That's a good point.
Pitch in. But I would like to see that the design process of how a field is built, what parts does it exist, and how we can source them locally. Kit of parts stuff, how we can source them locally. A good example would be the pneumatics, which we use the metric tubings and not the American tubings, which are very much close. But every year someone have to go on the Q&A system and ask, oh, can I use the equivalent metric stuff, whatever is written over there? And First HQ usually answer the answer is yes. I think in the last few years it even says in the manual this size or equivalent.
Yes.
But as first as growing outside of the US, and it goes in a lot of places, it goes in China, it grows in Turkey, it goes in Australia. I hope it would go in Europe. I'm seeing a lot of European teams in my league championships.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we'll have an event in Europe one day. First, need to think more and more as an international and not as an American organization. And those cost-saving measures would help anyone outside the US a lot.
So looking, I 100% agree with you. If First wants to be an international program like they say they want to be, they have to follow, they have to lead, or they have to lead by example for something like that, right? And I think Israel being one of the countries that we've had teams in for a long time now, and has been starting to grow and has been starting to produce some amazing teams lately. I think that's a great place to show that example with as well. So, Ruben, before we take off from you, and thank you for your time for this, any last things you want to talk about for what's coming up, maybe in First Israel, or something you might be excited about, or people should know about First Israel?
First Israel is a 15-year-old organization that has all 4 first programs in it. We have FTC, we have FLL, we have Junior FLL here. I think we are the only one that have that outside of North America. We are growing tremendously in team numbers. We get so much interest from schools and more kids to join our programs, and we would love to see that continue, and we would love to see more international teams in general on First. And anyone that can help us and support us in any way possible would feel free to contact either me or First Israel directly. And if you happen to be in Israel in March, April, then come and help us.
Yeah.
Literally.
I've heard nothing but amazing things about the competitions. I've had some friends that have volunteered there as referees and other inspectors, and they just can't say enough about the excitement that happens in Israel. So, Ruben, thank you so much for taking the time. We hope to see great things continue to come out of First Israel, and can't wait to talk to you later on a show coming up soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very, very much, and good night.
Good night, Ruben. Take care.
Wow, that was a really informative interview there with Ruben about everything that's going on in Israel. Alan, so you heard the discussion and like the immense loss of government funding and also the other issues that Israel has just by being an international program across an ocean. So you think about First Israel, what do you think First can do to help their program become more sustainable and to help continually grow in more international regions?
I mean, sustainability in general in First has to start with registration costs. We've been doing this for decades and decades, and we're still paying $5,000 a year for registration. Whether you're districts and you get 2 events or regional and you get 1, it's still the most expensive robotics program, period. And all those registration fees aren't going to support events. We know that. We know the model. Enough of us work in the model to understand how this works.
Alan, do you want to just fund First? I don't think a lot of our viewers know that. Do you want to give like the quick 30-second rundown of where your registration fee goes and
Sure.
where it doesn't go?
Your registration fee goes to support First headquarters and what they do, and First championship and things like that, and First staff. It does not support the regionals that you go to, and very little of it goes to your district event if you're in the districts. Your third plays and things like that do, and you can look for the breakdown on the website. But the vast amount of it goes back to headquarters.
Hey, Garrison, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Alan. Not all of the costs come from registration. There are a ton of costs associated with being not just an FRC team, but an international FRC team especially. One of the things that he talked about in that video was the game pieces, like how much they had to pay for those stupid milk crates this year. First, it doesn't seem like they really put a whole lot of thought into sourcing these things for international teams. It doesn't seem like they put all that much thought into sourcing them for U.S.-based teams all the time either. As we've seen evidence in the past of these selling out within a few hours. They've gotten better about that. I should give them credit. But there's so many costs. Or the fact that First is just now starting to get to using metric system in the rules where we used to require like certain pneumatics fittings and whatnot. I think you mentioned that. Like Karthik, I think we were talking earlier. We've had metric system teams in First since 1998. This is not a new thing.
Right.
A lot of people are kind of throwing their up and go, "Whoa, Israel's good now. We have to start caring." Two problems with that. One, why do you start caring when they're competitive? That's really annoying to me. Is like, what? Because kids can't build robots very well yet? That they're less important to you? I don't get First hesitancy to actually help these teams out, and we see this in new region after new region. It's not just an Israel problem. Think about Brazil. They've kind of come in and come out of First for the last 15 years, and we haven't seen a lot of growth there. But First has done nothing to try and promote it. It's all kind of coming from teams and outreach and that sort of thing. I don't know. I kind of get the vibe that First is First has plenty of problems at home, but it seems to me like they almost just don't care about actually making this experience better.
And I think what's crazy is I think if you look at the numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but it's at least 15% of First is international now. And that's a big chunk of their program. So I think it's about time. And I mean, there have been good changes, the manual's gotten a little bit better about metric stuff. This year, there's a commitment to having game pieces available locally in every country where there's an event. So there are commitments and there are steps being made. But when you go to championship, it feels like you are at an American event and you are very secondary. It does not feel like what an Olympics feels like, or what a Pan Am Games feels like, or what most international competitions feels like. And I think it's important that First takes a look at that. I know that's not necessarily going to address the sustainability issue, but it's just it's a matter of being welcoming and encouraging so people will feel that sort of love, as opposed to, it's being like, hey, this competition, they're tolerating of us being here, as opposed to they want us to be here. I think it's a distinction. So that's my thoughts on that. But good luck to everyone in Israel, and hopefully they can sort through these issues.
Thank you to all of our co-executive producers, keeping fun loud, live, and independent. Pledge your support at patreon.com/First Updates Now.